Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I'm joined by the American tragedy, Devlyn Macabre. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic to be chatting with you today, Miss Ma'am, because a lot has changed since the last time that I spoke with you. I mean, traveling wise, character wise, you have a different look. I kind of wanted to talk about some of the revamps that you've gone through over the last year and a half since the last time I talked to you. You are now the American tragedy as we introduced you as, and I feel like the connotations of it fit with the meaning of macabre, which we've talked about before, which for those who don't know, it means disturbing and horrifying because of involvement with or depiction of death and injury. But from your perspective, can you tell us the process of crafting this persona and what this new moniker, the American tragedy, means to you?
So the American tragedy kind of came from like two different things.
Okay.
I'm not the most creative when it comes to nicknames and monikers and stuff like that. So I had like femme fatale going for a little bit,
Yeah.
and I was really surprised no one else was using that. So I was like, snatch it, and I was
Mhm.
ready to even
Yeah.
trademark it. But I think more of a femme fatale is like a very like sexy woman who like lures men in and stuff like that, and that really did not fit my character.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I think it's time we need to drop this. So I just didn't have a nickname for a little bit, and then when I went to Europe, I think there was a lot of like emphasis on how I was American. Like people just were like, yes, she's American.
Mhm.
On commentary it was American, and I was like, all right, well, I want to kind of brand myself as a like an international pro wrestler, and I want to go to Japan and Mexico. So maybe if I have something that's like, hey, I'm an American
Yeah.
something. And I know like, Daniel or Brian Danielson has that, and there's plenty of other wrestlers that have
Yeah.
something American
Yeah.
in their name. Which at first I thought was kind of cringy because before I went to Europe, I was like, I'm not going to be one of those, like, I'm super patriotic and
Yeah.
my country's better than yours type thing. Cause I always thought that that was such a cheap way to get heat.
Hmm.
Um, but I was listening to this, everyone, I'm probably going to get like so much shit for this, but I'm like a Hollywood Undead fan. And I listened to a lot of their stuff, and I never realized that they had an album called The American Tragedy. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I like that. And then I was playing around with replacing tragedy, but I think that a lot of the stuff I've went through was quite tragic, and I think my character is surrounded by a lot of trauma and grief and things like
Yeah.
that are very tragic. So I was like, you know what, we're just going to keep it and we're just going to go with that.
Yeah, I feel like you've always kind of identified or been like drawn to kind of this darker, more tragic side, kind of, you know? I mean, it goes with your whole kind of last name, and I know you're not afraid of or like like deathy stuff like that. But this new persona specifically was accompanied with new gear, new hair, and kind of not a full new attitude, but definitely more kind of like on the darker side. And I feel like, again, that's something you've always been fascinated with. But how has this transition been to this darker character as you're kind of getting used to this new attitude, this new mannerisms, these new looks, etc.?
It's been kind of hard, to be honest. So growing up, I watched a lot of demonic possession movies,
Yes.
which is kind of funny because I am scared as hell from them now. I kind of have to force myself to watch them for character stuff. Like I'm
Mhm.
probably going to see The Exorcist sometime this week. Um, but I always was into that stuff, and I know like religion is a very touchy subject, and that's kind of where I'm like, where do we make this where it's not
Yeah.
offensive? Um, but I've always been into acting. I always said like once I retire from wrestling, I would like to be an actor. But I did acting when I was a kid. I did
Yes.
like acting competitions, and I was like more into theater and stuff. So it helped me a lot with character stuff and facials and things like that. But I've kind of gravitated more towards I'm a method actor. So I like to really just kind of like immerse myself into something, but that can also really mess with you mentally. And the best way I can describe the demonic character is in horror movies, demons take advantage of weak or vulnerable people.
Yeah.
They don't take advantage of someone that's like got their shit together or whatever. They always go after someone that they're like, yeah, I can slip into that. So growing up, I always like had a like an abusive drug addict father, and I you know got away from that when I was like 15, but like for most of my childhood, that's what I was around. So I ended up getting diagnosed with CPTSD, which is like complex post traumatic stress disorder.
Mhm.
And then I have like anxiety, I have like paranoia, things like that, where it's like, all right, this is something I kind of have to live with. And I uh I was talking to this wrestler, I'm sure a lot of people know him as Big Con, or
Yeah.
he's great with character
Bishop
stuff.
Khan. Yeah.
And yeah, and he was telling me, like, because I went to him, I was like, listen, I'm generic wrestler number 5 right now. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what, because this character, like, or something that involved with like trauma was something I had in the back of my mind when I
Mhm.
first started. But I was like, I'm gonna get canceled for that. Like, I can't do anything with, like, I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
So he was like, you can definitely like do something, like no one else does anything that kind of brings awareness to like mental disorders and stuff. And I always liked Finn Balor and his like demon thing, like where he
Yeah.
like it's like a switch.
Mhm.
um and I was like, what if I like kind of take inspiration from that and then shift it into something of my own? And that's kind of what I've been doing. But like getting into this like character, like I've had to kind of go to some dark places in my head to kind of
Yeah.
pull that out. And it's been hard, but it's just kind of like you just have to know when reality is like, all right, this is a character and this is me and this is very separate. Because I've gotten a lot of people, they think I'm like a Satanist and I do this and that. And I'm like, I don't fuck with that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I respect it. Like, do what you want to do. But if you pull a Ouija board out near me, I'm dipping. I'm out. Like, I'm running. So, but it's just a very, like, you have to kind of educate yourself on certain things and like portray it. And it's been like a journey, and it's been a longer journey because some people, like, I know they'll go through a character change and it's like a switch, and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
this character is done, and then this character, like, this is my character now. This has been a very like elongated, I think, character change. And I think there was one point where I wrestled in a nightgown to kind of represent, like, if you watch horror movies, they
Yeah.
always are in this white nightgown.
I know.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, I was at one point was like, this could be gear for me. And then I was like, getting compared a lot to like a succubus, which I like, I think look wise probably, but character wise, I'm not like that because I'm not a big fan of the meaning of a succubus. It's like a woman who like takes advantage of men when they sleep. And I feel like that's very bad.
Yeah.
So I the look, yes. The actual character wise, no, because the character is more of it's a darker, traumatized, you know, spirit or soul or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and you're still kind of like you said, it's still fairly new to you, it hasn't even been like a full year with it, and all of
Yeah.
that. So you're still kind of like experimenting, and drawing inspiration from other places, or just maybe drawing from your own traumas and stuff like that. Hence, like the method acting to a not to the full, demonic realm and all of that,
Yeah.
But I'm curious for you. I mean, ring gear wise, I mean, I have to assume like film is definitely one. You're huge into acting and all of that. Where do you draw inspo from when it comes to envisioning and crafting your ring gear as the American Tragedy and kind of your overall presentation?
I remember when I first started, it was like superheroes. Like
Yes.
I liked Psylocke from, it was like X-Men Apocalypse. My first set of gear was like supposed to be like that, and it did not come out like that at all. But that, like, superheroes was always my thing. But now it's been like I don't even really know. Like I wanted to get more into bodysuits because I feel like if I have very eccentric and outstanding gear, I think that kind of takes away. Like, I don't think a demon would come out covered in sparkles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my gear is getting more basic now, and I've gotten a little bit of like mixed reviews. Some people are like, no, you need to stand out. Like, look at what they wear in WWE and stuff and whatever. And I get that, but also it does not fit my character at all. Like, if I come out with like rhinestones on my gear, it's like, what? Like, I thought she was a demon. And I've been looking into possibly getting like big wings. It's just the part of traveling with that is going to
Yeah.
be hard. So, and I have like a horn, like the horns, but I want to get like a cow skull, and I just don't want these pieces taking away, or I don't want my gear taking away from these pieces. I want these pieces to be like what stands out.
Mhm.
And also, like, since my injury, my like right now my body is not where I want it to be at all. So it's just kind of been I've been wearing a lot of bodysuits lately just from a, to be blunt, insecurity thing. Like, all right, well, I ain't looking at my best right now, so let's put on a one piece real quick. But for inspiration, I don't know. I just like the character itself is very inspired by like Evil Dead. Hence why I do more of the like whatever. Um, but I go on Pinterest sometimes and I'll like find things like that. I remember going on Etsy and looking up like demon women bodysuits, like even Halloween costumes, and just kind of seeing where like what goes with what. Just the only thing I don't want is my gear and my entrance to look like a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
As I'm like, I don't want, and I think the wings kind of have been doing that lately. So I kind of was like, maybe I ditch the wings and just kind of do something else. But
Ironically, this interview will be coming out on Halloween, by the way.
oh, cool.
I'm glad you brought one of those aspects up because I was going to ask you, is there a specific significance behind the horns that you wear? I know you have a red pair and a black pair. I don't know if you have any other pairs. But is there a specific significance behind those?
The red pair broke, and I got that in a shop in Germany,
Oh
and I
my
was
gosh.
sad.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, these are cool as hell. But the headband kind of did look like it was a Halloween costume. So
Yeah.
the ones I got now are like, I think they're like goat horns, goat like antlers. Cause I think in like demon movies, and I think even in like Satanism, it's a very goats like are like a very prominent animal.
Yeah.
So it's like goat antlers or something. I got it off Amazon. But it was I think that one is pretty cool. But there's Etsy is like the best place to find like genuine stuff. And I like, it's just been like, do I really want to spend $100? Yeah, I
I'm an
do. But when
Etsy
you can,
holic, not for
oh, me
reindeer, but
too.
like just in general.
Yes, I love Etsy. And it's like you're supporting small businesses at
Yeah.
the same time. So and there's like this one that's like this big, and it's black, and or no, I think it's white, and it has like these beads and stuff on it. It looks very like, okay, that's some, I hope I don't conjure something up with
Mhm.
buying this. But it's also like there's certain ones I've found that have like symbols on it, and I'm just like, I don't know what this means. Maybe I don't need to get this because it could offend somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to find like more basic ones, but like also I'm not very crafty. So if I have to do this myself, it's not going to come out good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that that could be, I mean, obviously, it would entail like some research and stuff so you don't offend anybody, like you said, but I think that would be something cool to kind of like explore. You're still experimenting with your character and everything. Just in general, it's kind of a trial and error thing for everybody, in crafting your identity. But I think that would be like, I mean, it'd go a little bit of an extra mile, but I think that would be something cool to like incorporate. There's all these like mythological and like demonic like creatures and like backstories to stuff and like folklore and stuff. There's so much you can do with what you're doing. So I mean, like I said, it's a trial and error kind of thing, but I'm excited to see because I feel like you can do a lot with this.
yeah, it's definitely something that has a lot of room. The only thing with my character, I feel like where I struggle is it's like the backstory, like, okay, yeah, she's
Yeah.
a demon, great, moving on. Like, but there's like a significant backstory. And I
Mhm.
eventually I've been in contact with a couple like film producers that do like short horror films in the Central Florida area. And um I was talking about doing a couple little short 5-minute movies about like maybe there's like a scene where there's like a possession. So that kind of really just tells you what's going on. Um and I wanted to do kind of like a scene where like it shows my childhood a little bit. So it also kind of tells you what's going on. Of course, not everyone's going to see that, but the people that do see that and be like, okay, this girl's like out here giving us a backstory, you know, because you see in a movie, when you watch a movie, you don't just go in there and it's like, oh, this girl's a demon now, but how did she get to this point?
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, this is how, and this is the build up, and then this, I think it's like the climax, and then all this stuff is like, it gives you the explanation. But in wrestling, it's kind of like you just go out in front of a crowd that's probably never seen you before, and it's like, well, how do I tell this story to them?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that I know nothing about like film production and all of that, but I think, that ties in really well because people, I mean, you could tie it in as kind of like a promo, but also a backstory to your like the wrestling is one of those like not random, but it's very distinct to where you can blend entertainment and sports and like theater and all of that stuff that you can blend it together and also contribute to kind of furthering your story of who Devlyn Macabre is as the American tragedy. I would love to see something like that. I know, like, budget wise though, I don't know what it would cost. I don't want to think about that. But there's a lot you can do with it, and kind of in that same wavelength of like, we were talking about horror movies earlier. I know the last time we talked, you mentioned that you were really into Friday the 13th and all of that. Do you recall the first ever scary movie that you saw?
um Maybe well, I don't think it was, but I think it was The Descent, and that one scared the hell out of me.
I believe it. Do you remember how I don't know how young you were when you first started watching them? Because you mentioned that you used to watch them a lot, like growing up or something.
Yeah, so my mom my mom and dad separated when I was like 5, so my
Yeah.
dad ended up getting custody of me. And he did not give a flying damn what I watched. So I think I started watching horror movies when I was 6.
Yeah.
That's a very young age to
Yeah.
start watching stuff. I if I had kids, I would not. No. You can watch Casper.
I mean, that's a good one. It's on
It is.
Netflix right now.
I know. I was like, I love Casper.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I remember like The Grudge was like my favorite one.
Yeah.
The Grudge was like, oh my God. And then I watched the Ju-ons, and then I got into The Ring, and then I watched it was like there was this one, it was like Sadako versus Kayako, which is like the Japanese versions of The Grudge and The Ring, and it was like literally them, it was like Freddy versus Jason, but with them.
Yeah.
And but those were like Japanese horror movies. I don't, ooh, those ones are scary. They don't play well.
Yeah, no, sometimes, I love like the thrill of it, but there's even for me, there's like a certain point, that you kind of like being scared. I know you said you don't like being scared, but it's ironic because you're doing a it's just ironic.
Yeah.
But but outside of wrestling, like you mentioned, you have aspirations to do more acting and film projects one day, maybe in a horror movie, I don't know, but what does your dream acting gig look like?
I
If you
would
had
probably,
unlimited if they had unlimited budget, you could do whatever you wanted, what is your dream acting gig?
I don't know. When I was a younger, I used to write, like, you know what Wattpad was? I don't know if that's
Yes,
still
because I
around.
was it's still there, and this is the first time I'm publicly saying that I wrote on there. Yes.
So I remember there was so many, I got introduced to it because
Yeah.
I was in a lot of like fan groups for like wrestling, but
Me
I didn't know what,
too.
yeah, and I didn't know what fan fiction was.
Yeah.
And I went into one, and I think it was a Dean Ambrose one, and I'm thinking like, this is like a nice pure story of like maybe I meet him one day. No, I was traumatized,
It
very
probably
young.
turned into smut.
But then it was so, I don't even want to repeat it. It was like,
Okay.
I was like
Okay.
12 and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Um, but I ended up looking around on the app and there was like people writing like full on books on this thing. So
Yeah.
I started reading those and then I was like, what if I write my own book? Like what if I do that? So I started writing two and it was like one that's kind of, I want to say it was a copy and paste, but mind you, I was like, I think 14 at this point.
Yeah.
But it was like, I loved the Hunger Games. Like, I was a Hunger Games kid. And I wrote, I think, a book about like how this girl, it's like post, World War III, and like now women get drafted and young people get drafted in a
That is
war.
so ironic that you're talking about this right now, Devlin, because my whole TikTok page, we're not going to talk about politics and whatever, is the whole thing about the women getting drafted and all the
Yeah,
memes that are going around. My whole TikTok page is that right now. Go on. But I just thought it was ironic timing that you mentioned
no,
this.
it's literally in my page, my For You page too. Like, oh, let's go to Starbucks in our tank.
You
Um,
know?
but yeah, it was like the 16-year-old girl, she gets drafted into a war. And I think in school we were learning about the Vietnam War at this time.
Yeah.
And I've always been into like history and like wars and stuff. So I was like, the Vietnam War was just a very just unnecessary, like very depressing war if you really like look
Mhm.
into it. So it was like one of those things where it's like, all right, well, we don't really need to go to war for this, but we're forced to. And essentially it was like, I don't remember all the details, and I'm sure the book, like, I don't think I ever deleted it and I don't think I ever finished it, but it was she like falls in love with another boy that's out there with her, and then he dies because I'm like, I don't believe in happy endings. And then she comes back with like PTSD and like it didn't, yeah. But then there was another one that was based off of this girl who was born from the star Cyrus, uh, which is like one of the hottest stars in the galaxy. If I could be wrong, don't come from me. But she came from this star, and when she was like 4 or 5 years old, she murdered two boys at like in like pre-K because she like burned them to death because they were like throwing dirt on her or whatever. She got
Mhm.
mad. She's like, all right, whatever. So she gets sent to an asylum and they can't figure out, like, they thought she just lit them on fire, but she actually like projected it out of her hands. So they were like, she's in this asylum for her entire life, well, her entire 18 years.
Yeah.
And she eventually breaks out because she's under these human experiments. It's kind of like X-Men where there's like a sanctuary for these
Yeah.
people. So she gets brought in by them, and then but the thing with her is like she can literally like kill anyone. Like she could kill Thanos easily. Like she's very powerful, but she also has like, if you shoot her in the head, she's dead. She's not coming back. She's very like, it's kind of like Batman where like
Yeah.
he's like human. She's human, but she's not. But she has like these amazing superpowers, but she's just as um vulnerable as the next person. So she ends up dying in the end.
I feel like you could make either of those into a film.
Yeah. I would more want Cyrus though. I feel like that's a
Yeah.
cooler one. But then
Yeah.
I feel like I'd get came for by DC and Marvel. They'd be like, listen.
I mean, there's a bunch of films with uh not personified, but like people who are given kind of like super, there's so many like superpower, like it's kind of fantasy too as well. It's blending. There's a lot of movies like that, you know? So like,
That's
but I feel
true.
like that would be like drawing from the sun and like the stars and all of that, I think would be really cool, you know?
Yeah,
If
I don't
anyone
think I've
wants to
really
fund that, give it to Devlin.
I'll direct it, I'll act in it,
Uh-huh.
you let me
Yeah.
I'll write it, like all the credits.
Yeah. That's so funny. But we were talking about kind of this horror genre and kind of a darker realm. I feel like there's a person who definitely fits in that vibe with you. That's Kelsey Raegan. I talked to her about over a month ago about this, but I wanted your perspective on it. So tell us how you and Kelsey connected and eventually formed Venom and Violence.
Oh boy. So I met Kelsey, I think when I was like 19, and
Yeah.
I was at Devon's. Uh and like she was well, she wasn't the only person. I'm not like, there were other people that were nice there, but she was very like pushing and nice to me.
Yeah.
Because Devon's was like, if you talk to anyone from Devon's, like Devon's is a very um conditioned school. Like
Yeah.
you get conditioned there. And you can't stop. Like you have to keep going, and you need people to kind of egg you on. And she was always egging everyone on. She was very like
Mhm.
supportive. um and then I remember when I first started wrestling like matches, she was like, hey, like I'm a champion here, kind of take me under her wing a little bit. And it's been since, like, I think since I wrestled her, which was like over like almost 2 years ago. And her and I always wrestled each other, and we always
In
traveled together, and
Florida,
we
yeah.
always, yeah, we got very, very close. We talk every single day. And lately, like I think it was before I went to Europe, she was like, we were talking about doing a tag team. Because we kind of, it's not that I don't like wrestling her. I love wrestling her, but it's like we can't wrestle each other all the time. So
Yeah.
we need to put an end to
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
So we're gonna be a tag team now. No more wrestling each other. So I we started like pitching ideas, but when I got back from Europe, that was like, all right, let's actually run with this, because we couldn't really do anything while I was in Europe. And she came up with the name Venom and Violence. Once again, I'm not creative at all. But I don't know. She's very like amazing. Like it's really nice to have someone else in the business that's like, yeah, it's like your best friend, but me and her are very like sisterly. Like we bicker like sisters, but like we also love each other like sisters. So it's like it's nice to have that.
And I feel like you two, just in general, like character wise, especially with your new one, I feel like you guys vibe just really well together. It's like kind of this darker realm. She's taking more from like, maybe like with the witchy or like mythological, and you're kind of like the demonic aspect of it. But I feel like it kind of crosses together really well. And I feel like Venom and Violence is like the perfect name for you guys.
Yeah. It's really cool because, but the thing with me and her, especially like I think a month ago, she was like Ginger, and we just get mistaken a lot. Even though I have like no tattoo, I have like a few,
Yeah,
but her and I, like, it is very like, who is in the ring? Oh, it's Kelsey. Like
that's funny.
it is very, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. See, I mean, I can tell you guys apart, but yeah, I know she was out. She was out for a little bit, out on injury, but obviously, I think you guys just recently teamed together again.
Yeah,
Just very
literally
recently?
yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
Yesterday.
thought. I remember seeing it. I was like, glad they're, back on the road, and hopefully, you guys get more reps in together, because this is a tag team I think can really expand. But you mentioned, obviously you've expanded your own horizons to another continent, that being Europe. You've wrestled in Germany, Poland, England, the Netherlands. I mean, tell us about some of these main takeaways from your experience of working in Europe.
It was honestly it was amazing trip. It was very worth it. I was like, I remember the night before I left, I was like, I don't know if I want to, I may regret this. Like, this is a long time to be away from home.
Yeah.
But it was such a like lifelong memory trip. I'm sorry, I'm not good at putting words together
It's
sometimes,
okay.
but I had friends in the Netherlands, actually. Two of them. I met them on PlayStation. I don't know, when I was
Wow.
like 15.
Yeah.
And their names is Sten and Yordi. And Sten actually came to America once and stayed with me and my mom. And we all, like, me, him, and my friends, we all like hung out. And when I was in the Netherlands, he, like, me and him, he has like an apartment, so I like was able to stay with him. So that was really cool, but it was nice to have a friend.
Yeah.
So like, and he had like a female friend, and I, bonded with her. So it was like, all right, I'm not like alone. And then when I was doing bookings throughout that month, I got to really like, I was wrestling mainly in Germany. So I was in
Yeah.
and out of Germany a lot, and I met a lot of the wrestlers there. So then I started at WXW. It was just, they're very welcoming. They're very nice over there. I didn't really have any issues with anyone. Um, it's definitely a different culture over there. Like, they're very different with a lot of things, but overall, at the end of the day, like I made a lot of friends and I made a lot of memories and I learned so much. Like Robert, one of the head coaches, or he is the head coach at WXW. He was so great. Like I learned so much different things from him. And we did tape studies where we would just sit there and like watch matches and he would just give critiques. And then it was just amazing. Like, cause I think he was trained by Walter or Gunther.
Yeah.
So he's kind of passing his knowledge down too. So it was pretty incredible. And then just the production over there, like I gotta say Germany takes the cake because like they have like actual cameras and they have Titantrons and they have music and they have all
Yeah.
these things, these graphics. And I'm just like, wow, like America's really lacking with this. Like some of the graphics I've been on looks like it was like put in pic collage and you just
Mhm.
crop me out real quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh my, I don't know. It was awesome. It was incredible.
Yeah, I'm curious for you. Like you said, you alluded to that there was some moments of kind of culture shock. What were some of the noticeable differences other than I know portion size is a big thing for food, but what were some noticeable differences that you encountered between the States and Europe that you noticed?
Well, they didn't have sweet tea or ranch over there, so I was kind of
A little
screwed
bummed.
from the
Yeah.
get-go. Yeah. Um, and their barbecue sauce wasn't the best, but it's whatever. Um, they're like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of so the portion sizes weren't too different. I don't eat a lot in one sitting. I can't. Like I'll get stuffed. My eyes are always bigger than my stomach. But the McDonald's over there, I will not eat McDonald's in America. I refuse. The
Okay.
McDonald's over there, they had like chicken Caesar wraps and like
Oh.
salads and like their meat tasted like meat. Like it was weird, but their burgers were like, I know why Germany's known for their burgers
Mhm.
because I do not eat burgers, but I was like, I have to try one, and them burgers are good. I just think like the language was very different for me. But there a lot of them do speak English.
Yeah.
And then like I think the whole like so I have a friend and he was telling me how like yeah, most Germans have like free healthcare. And I'm
I
like,
wish.
right, like I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, we just and then they get like a month off of free vacation paid.
I think we need to move to Germany, Devlin.
That's what I'm saying. And also everything is so cheap over there.
Mhm.
Like like the trains I don't think are cheap because I had like a pass. So I
Yeah.
just I didn't pay for the trains. But like if you wanted to get a bag of chips and a drink from the gas station, it probably cost you like $3.
Wow.
I'm like a drink alone, the drink would be $3 in
3 bucks,
America.
yeah.
Like it's just like I don't know. It was just insane. I was like, I really just I need to like find someone to marry here. Just so, like we don't even gotta be together. Like let's just like give me a visa.
Right,
I
right.
need to move here. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, but you got to meet so many new people and compete against some of the best that Europe has to offer. So, should you return, are there certain competitors in the European scene that you hope you get a chance to work with next time?
Yeah. I already worked her twice, but Mila Smith, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
I
She is
know.
amazing. And she like still messages me to this day. Like we chit chat every now and then. But she really is someone that is like, I'm like, how are they not signed? Like, what is going on here? And I think she was telling me she's like, I'd like to come back to America and wrestle again. And I'm like, girl, I'm gonna be following you wherever you go. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
trying to wrestle you again because she really is amazing and she's also got such good energy to her.
I know.
Um, and then I would love to work Nina Samuels. I was in a locker room with her and she baked everybody brownies and was like super like motherly almost. So it was like, oh, I watched her on NXT UK. I was a
Yeah,
fan, but it was like kind of cool to um see her in person, meet her in
yeah,
person. I always get like scared to meet, like not scared, but like skeptical because
yeah.
I've had a lot of instances where they say never meet your heroes, and you meet someone that you're like, this person, like everyone, she's so
Yeah.
good, she's
Mhm.
so like, she seems so sweet, and then she's a bitch in real
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, oh, okay. But Nina was like super nice.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm trying to think. I have a list, but it's like it's
It's a
on my
lot.
phone. Yeah. But definitely those two for sure. I did work a good bit of the German girls, but a lot of them, like, I would love to work again. Like, it was awesome. Baby Allison. I worked her in a fatal four way, and we barely really got to do anything.
Yeah.
But her character is just amazing. I feel like if her and I tagged, that would be dope. And me and her have literally been like, we need to either wrestle each other or we need to tag. Like, it's got to be one or the other. Um, she's got such a cool look to her, and she's very good. I think she's good, and she's really nice too. So those would be
Yeah.
my top three.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we get you back there soon. Maybe we need to move to Germany for real though, but
We'll be
man,
roommates.
I want to go to Europe so badly. I haven't had the chance to yet. It's very sad. But two more questions for you. I feel like you have, you've expanded your horizons. You've kind of drawn on to this new character. Reflecting on some things that you're proud of, is there a certain match or moment, maybe it's from that Europe trip or just in general, that you feel really proud of and why?
I think it would, and I've always been like super not against, but I've always been like, championships don't really matter until you get to the main stages. And I
Yeah.
hate to be negative Nancy here, but it's like I've had, I haven't really won much championships, and I don't feel like companies like look at me like that. They're like, oh yeah, she's just kind of here for a one-off. Um, excuse me, sorry.
Oh, good.
So GWF, it was like my second match there, or my second match in Europe in general. And I knew I was coming in for like the title match, but I just assumed I was like not winning it. And I got there and they were like, yeah, we're putting the title on you today. And it was just very like, what? And the only thing I did not I didn't like was just the fact that we were on the pre-show and we had 5 minutes. But I think
Wow.
we killed me and Cara. I think we killed it in that 5 minutes. And I think we made it. We had a lot of people like what saying like they should have had longer. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it was a very like, we would have liked to seen that stretched out more. Um, but it was really cool to have won that title, and it was my second night, and it was an international title, let alone, and I didn't drop it immediately. The other two titles I had was one, it was for a company in Texas. I think it's like Lone Star or something like that
Yeah.
now. They've rebranded a couple times, but I lost it on my first defense. I was just kind of like transitional, I guess. And then the other one was like a company here in Florida. And then I took the title because they told me that, oh, you'll be defending it against we're gonna try to get some Impact girls.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, okay, I'll take the title, no problem. And then yeah, they were lying. So it was just cool, and it was really incredible to have some company like actually like, all right, we're gonna put this title on you and we're gonna push you. And
Yeah.
then the original plan was I was gonna drop it before I came back, but they were like, all right, well, actually, you can just take it back to America and defend it. And I was able to, I think, once. I was supposed to twice, but then pretty quickly after I got back, that's when I got hurt. And I just
Yeah.
was like, this really sucks because I have a title and there's a lot of great girls in Germany that could be holding this title. And I'm just in America with it. You know what I mean? So it was a little annoying. But I ended up dropping it at WXW, which was I think the first time they ever like worked
Was this
with
the
each
match
other.
with Ava where
Yeah.
it was title and yeah, yeah, okay.
So it was the first time I think they ever worked together because they're WXW I think is the biggest company,
Hmm.
let alone in Germany, but Europe. But GWF is like, I would say, the second biggest
Yeah.
company. No disrespect to any of the other companies in
Yeah.
Germany at all. But they're very like uh they're very prominent and well known because I think
Okay.
GWF has been around since the 90s.
Yeah.
So I think this was the first time they were able to work together, which I think was cool because I was like a part of that a little bit. And it was a lot of history being made there. And granted, that match at Femme Fatales, like that was my first match back with the neck. And I literally was like, that was the week I was cleared.
Yeah.
So it was very scary going into that. But I went back, lost it and came back to the States. So here I am, titleless. But it was probably my like one of my proudest moments in my career.
Yeah, and I mean, injuries are an unfortunate reality and risk of professional wrestling. I hate that it was kind of, like in the midst of your, reigns, you couldn't defend it more, but you had that reign and nobody can take that away from you, Devlyn.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was a little bit over 100 days or something like
Yeah.
that. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
and I think I was the first American to
There
win
you
it.
go.
So history a little bit.
Exactly, and to close things out as we look towards the future now, what are some of your personal and professional goals for this next year or so? Besides, returning to Europe.
Yeah, I would like to go to either Japan or Mexico next year, or both. That's like my main goal. Um, and then of course, like I would like to really like get in shape. Like I want to look like, lean and shredded. And also, just to wrestle more matches and wrestle different people and hit some new states and things like that and just wrestle for new promotions. um that's just like my goal. It's pretty basic, but I have like the same goal every year because I feel like if you have these crazy, like if I was like I want to get signed by next year, it's like
Yeah.
that's if it doesn't happen, then I'm going to be all bummed and upset and I'm going to think I'm a failure. So I'm just like I just want to wrestle and get in better shape, get more reps.
Exactly. You're still building, and you're still very, very early in your career still, there's a lot more learning and expanding to do, to sharpen yourself and sharpen this new character that you have. So, it's been a pleasure chatting with you as always. Before we let you go, can you please share where the listeners can find you online?
So my Instagram is Devlyn Macabre. My Twitter is it's Devlyn. And then I have my website, like my merch is Big Cartel. Devlyn Macabre. I think that's the way. I don't know. I think it's Big Cartel then me, not me then Big Cartel. Um,
DevlynMacabre.BigCartel.com.
Thank you. I'm like, I don't know. So, and then I have an OnlyFans where I like chit chat with fans, or you get some exclusive photos there, exclusive merch there. But that's onlyfans.com/Devlyn Macabre.
Well, Devlyn, thank you so much for chatting with me again today. Congratulations, on all the success that you've had so far and the growth that you are continuing to blossom into. We look forward to our next chat with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.